Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and today we're going to be removing doors, fenders, bumper, headlights, a whole bunch of stuff. So we're going to start off by disconnecting the negative and positive battery terminal since there is some electrical involved here. So we'll take a 10mm socket and we're going to remove first the negative cable. So loosen that up, and then you can just wiggle this right off the post and set it out of the way where it will not contact the battery. We'll move over to the positive side as well and do the same thing. Loosen that up and move it out of the way. Now you do have to do the headlights and the bumper kind of at the same time, so just keep that in mind. You'll see it through the video, but we're going to take this trim panel off by removing those clips. And so where there's screws or any of these other ones that just kind of twist off, we'll remove this panel, and that gives us access to our headlight hardware. So there's two here on the top, and then there's also some from the side. And again, this one's accessible first here, but there's one on the opposite side that you have to have the bumper kind of out of the way for, and I'll show you that now. So this is kind of ahead of time. See how you had to have the bumper out of the way to get to that one. So there's another one that's way back in here as well, so you might be able to get up under the car for some of these, but mainly we're going after all of these clips, and some of them you can get under and pop off with the headlight still in place. That's what I ultimately did, and a lot of these break as they come off anyway, but I'll show you on this one. See how we can wedge it up, and then you should be able to take a pair of pliers and pop it up, and once it's up, now we can pull it out. So this is what it looks like. So once you pop the centerpiece up, it's loose enough to pull the rest of it out. So disconnect this and any screws you may have found. Some of these look like they were aftermarket. Somebody drilled them in at one point. But there's clips that are under the headlight here. And again, you can kind of reach under there and try to at least pop them up enough without removing the headlights, but removing the headlights is the correct way, and we'll cover more of that. But underneath the car, we're going to take out the 10mm bolts that we find here on this plastic tray and more of those plastic clips. On the side right here of the bumper, you're going to use a 10mm on the top and then a 10mm below it, and so you have to hold that nut still on the top while you loosen the bottom one. So as you can see, we have both wrenches in place here, and we can take off this little clip. So that allows this little piece to come off. So the bumper should be loose there now. So it's just a post with a nut on the top of it. Okay, so that's kind of what it looks like together once it's installed. So we're just removing that from the side of the fender there. Okay, now we can drop the bumper down and twist the turn signal bulb out, and then there's a side marker one as well that you just twist and pull out. That's probably the easiest way, just be careful. Going back to the headlight, you'll notice the headlight, this one's missing the two prongs because they were damaged, but there are prongs that stick out of the headlight and go into the fender. So the crash support uses this 6mm Allen hex. Then what you want to do is remove this metal piece here on the top. It was a 14mm, and then you need the Allens for this one. There's a top one and a bottom one, and by getting that crash bar just kind of out of the way, then you can get your headlight out completely, because those tabs do go down enough or it won't clear the bumper. And on these, we can just remove these. You can unplug them or just turn them out of the way. So this is what the bracket looks like on the back. It just goes up behind the bumper.
And one that threads into goes behind.
Now for the mud flap. A screwdriver doesn't really fit in there, so if you just take the bit with a 1/4" drive ratcheting wrench, then that's kind of a little hack that you can get in here and loosen these up. So we're just taking out these wherever we find them for the mud flap. And now we're going to work on our wheel well liner. So it just has more of these clips that I don't like. They just break every time you try to take them off. So try not to tear up the fenders you're doing it. Now on this rocker molding here, you can slightly pull down on it enough to expose the bolt for the fender on the side. So the fender has some bolts that are in there.
10mm bendable head ratchet, very easy. You get onto the fender bolt here. There's one at the bottom. There's also one here at the top that I already took out. So with the door open, you can get on these and remove these 2 bolts here. And with the door open, you can also get a straight shot to it with an extension and a regular 10mm.
We're going to go ahead and take out the 10mm bolts on that one. So that gets our fender loose here on the back. Then we're just going down the fender and taking off all these 10mm bolts that we can find. And then there's 2 here on the side that hold it to the body of the car. So now that we remove this out of the way, and as a reminder, the headlight does have 2 prongs that are going into that fender, so make sure you don't break them off. You want to move the fender slightly back as you remove it. So notice those 2 prongs there that are going into the headlight. Sometimes they're broken off if there's been an accident, but we can move the fender back. So this is what the fender looks like. Then you had the 2 prongs for the headlight there, the 2 bolts that went into the frame. This is for the fender liner. Of course, this fender's upside down. You have your bolts here that go into the side. There's 3 here towards the bottom and 1 at the top, and then the ones that go along the front of the fender. Next, for the door, I really like what they did here. The harness can be disconnected on the door side. So you just pull this back, and with that boot out of the way, you just push down on the tabs and these 2 harnesses come out. And you can do them at the same time. So you just push down on the tabs on the top and the bottom and wiggle them out. So very easy to get that harness out from the door. Okay, next there's a little pin. You're going to take a hammer and just pop this out. You want to be supporting the door to get the door to remove, and that's a 2-person job to hold this, but somebody's holding the door, and we're just taking our socket here and just removing all 4 of these. I found it easiest to then reinstall this pin. I'm showing knock it out, but reinstall that one, hold the door up, have somebody hold the door, and then install the bolts back up. And I basically held the door a little bit higher than it should have been, tighten these down, and then the weight of the door kind of fell back down and the door lined back up. So hopefully you found this video useful. There's more videos that I have that are similar to this in the playlist in the video description, so please check that. If you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks, guys.